everyone and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda and in today's video we are going to be doing a sculpted builder gel French using the Kiki London Easy Build Up Gel. So I really hope you all enjoy watching. Similar to last week's video, we are just going to be working on my thumbnail and I've slowed down the little video a little bit just so you guys can see the application and things like that. Now I have done all of the prep off camera, so I will leave my dedicated prep video linked in the description box below. So to start off with, I have wiped over my nail with one of the Kiki London alcohol wipes to dehydrate, and then now we are coming in with the primer. So you just want to apply a small amount of the primer, but make sure you are covering the entire nail, as this is going to prime your nail ready for your base coat. This does air dry, so you don't need to cure it. And then we're going to come in with one of my original favourite base coats. This is the Kiki London Clear Rubber Base. I find this base coat absolutely amazing for adding some strength to your natural nails. My nails are on the thin, weak side, and I find when I'm wearing this, it really makes them feel a lot stronger. And with continued use, it definitely strengthens them as well. So I'm just going to apply a thin coat of this, but I do like to quite scrub it into that nail plate. I find that this gives a really good adhesion. Although the rubber base coat is slightly thicker, you don't want to be applying a thick layer. I hope that makes sense. Then we're going to be sculpting again today, so I'm going to take my sculpting form. Now it is very, very tricky to apply sculpting forms in my opinion with gloves on, but I like to keep my gloves on in videos as I have quite dry skin and I'm a little bit self-conscious about it. So I persevered with the sculpting form with gloves on, but it's tricky because they stick to the gloves a lot more than they stick to your fingers. Now when it comes to applying your sculpting forms, you want to put a little curve in them, so you would see that I just kind of rolled them gently. I don't like to put too much of a deep C curve in them. Then I'm just positioning it so that that center line on the sculpting form is center with my nail plate. And then I'm just getting it all into position, and then I like to close up the back of it around my finger, and then I'm pinching the end of the form closed to put a bit of a C curve in it. And because we won't be doing a long sculpted now, we're going to be doing a more of a short medium. Now let's talk sculpting a French. Now personally, when I sculpt a French, I actually like to sculpt a thin clear base to begin with, then remove my form and then do the French. What I find this a lot easier, but then it's also brilliant if you're doing a redesign. So if your client comes back in and decides she doesn't want a French design anymore, you can file off the French down to that thin clear sculpted base and then do a completely new design. But if you do it differently, let me know how you do your sculpted French nails in the comments below. So I'm starting off by taking the Kiki London Easy Build Up in Crystal Clear, and as you can see, I'm just applying a thin coat of this to my natural nail. I'm not building up too much thickness because I don't want to end up with an overall thick nail, and I'm going to build up a lot of my strength and structure in the actual French. Then we're taking a small ball of gel and I'm connecting this on to the gel that's at that very free edge of my nail, and then we're creating our tip. So as you can see, I'm taking that gel from side to side, making sure that it connects to all areas of the free edge, and then I'm working down that sculpting form and trying to create my shape as neat as possible. So I wanted to go for a kind of short, medium almond shape. It's a little hard to see on camera because we're sculpting with clear, but I'm using my brush to create that shape. If you create your shape with your brush, then you have less filing to do to file that into shape. I do still file a little bit though, which you will see further along. Now I'm building up a little bit of thickness, enough so it matches the thickness of my natural nail, but it is still fairly thin. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to pop that in to cure for 30 seconds. And then because you've built up a thin base, you want to be very careful how you remove your sculpting forms. So I open the back first of all, and then I just pull down and away from that sculpting form. So as you can see here, my shape is a little bit messy, so we're going to file that nice and neat. So before filing, I'm going to wipe off the tacky inhibition layer that's left behind. So I'm just giving it a good cleanse, but always being very careful because we have only built up a very thin base. Then I'm going to take my file and we're going to use a mix of the 100 and the 180 grit side. I think I predominantly use the 180 grit side because it's only thin. We don't want to file too much off or file into it too much. So I'm just coming from side to side and creating and neatening up that shape. I'm not stressing too much about getting the perfect shape because I'll do my overall finish shaping once we've done our French. But I just find it a lot easier if I can get my base as neat as possible. The following steps end up a lot neater. I hope that makes sense. So as you can see here, I'm just filing that into a more almond shape, bringing the tip to a little bit more of a point and making sure that I'm happy with how it's centered. And then once we are finished with this step, we're going to take the Kiki London dust brush and just give it a good dust to make sure that we're removing all of that dust. Anytime you do any kind of filing, I would highly recommend going over the nail with your alcohol wipe as well, just so that you're not going to be getting any dust in the next layer of gel. Now for the next layer, we're going to be using neutral pink. So I'm going to start off by kind of doing a slip layer like I normally would, but instead of taking this down over the entire nail, I'm only going to be applying this to my natural nail bed area and creating out the shape that I want my smile line natural nail bed area to be. So we're coming in with a really thin layer for our slip layer. Then with our builder gel layer, I'm going to keep my slip layer wet. And then I'm taking my bottle brush and I'm making sure that the gel is on the bottom part of the brush and it's kind of all on one side. And then as you can see, I'm rolling this off the brush into that wet slip layer, pushing it up and getting it as close and as neat around that cuticle area as possible. You want to be super careful that you don't touch the cuticle or the sidewall skin. And if you do, you want to wipe that off with a little bit of alcohol. That's why I showed you guys at the start that I always have my angled nail art brush to hand. And then what I'm doing here is I'm working that gel from side to side quite slowly because we don't want to add in any air bubbles. And then I'm creating the shape that I want my extended nail bed to be. I'm not actually extending the nail bed too much. I'm just bringing it into a little bit more of a point because I want to have a little bit of a deep French. Not a super deep French. I want it to look quite natural, but I want there to still be a nice curve for the smile line. So as you can see here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my angled nail art brush and push into that gel at the sides and bring it in to a point, and this is going to help create the curve for your smile line. So it's super simple to do, and when I'm working with my angled nail art brush, I've just got a very small amount of alcohol on there just so it can wipe into that gel nicely. Then once you are happy with the shape, we're going to pop that in to cure for 60 seconds. And when I'm working with this length of nail, I like to do 2 coats. So I'm going to come in and do a second coat. So when it comes to doing the second coat, I'm going to apply my slip layer over that entire area that we've already built up with the first layer. With your slip layer, you want to keep it nice and neat. Want to make sure that you are wiping any off that goes into the cuticles or the sidewalls, because basically with your slip layer, it guides your builder gel layer where to go. So if you get product on your cuticles with your slip layer and you don't wipe it off, your builder gel layer is more than likely going to follow. Another thing that I'm doing as well is I'm tilting my nail downwards. This is going to help the gel flow. So where you're pulling it into place with the brush, gravity is going to do its thing. If you're pointing the nail downwards, it's going to help that gel flow where you want it to go. And again, what I'm doing here is I'm bringing it down side to side, gentle sweeps with my brush, and I'm bringing it to an ever so slightly higher point in the very center of the nail. I'm then going to come in with a little bit more gel and just come down the spine of the nail just to build up the structure a little bit more. We want to make sure that we've got our apex there and that this is where we're going to be building up all our strength and structure for the nail, because we won't be doing any encapsulating. We are building the entire nail up with the pink and white gel. Once again, I'm going to come in with that angled nail art brush and clean up the shape. I do still file my smile line to get a nice super crisp shape, but I like to do a lot of the work with the gel and the brush because then this minimizes the amount of filing to do. Talking of filing, once you've cured that second layer, we're going to move on to filing. So I'm going to wipe off my tacky inhibition layer first of all, and then we're going to take the file and just neaten up the shape. Now this was a little bit tricky to do on camera because of the angle I was working at. It's a lot easier to do in person. Also, if I was doing a full set, I would do all of my clear base first of all. shape those. Then I would do all of my nail beds, shape those. Then I would come in and do all of my white French tips. So if you were wondering, that's how you would do a full set for speed and things if you were working in a salon. So as you can see here, when I'm filing that nail bed area, I'm keeping my file nice and flat up against that built up free edge, the wall that we've created for our nail bed. And you want to keep it nice and flat so that you're not carving in to the tip part of the extended nail bed. If you kind of angle your file, you'll kind of put like a dent into that. So you want to make sure that your file is nice and flat up against that builder gel. And then I'm just coming round and creating the shape. Every now and then I'll dust off so I can see that I'm happy with the shape. And you'll see more once when we've done the white that I've created quite a natural round nail bed area, but I did still have a little curve so that we can create a nice smile line. Now for our tip, we're going to be using the Easy Build Up Gel in Snow Glaze. I really love this for a nice natural looking smile line French design because it's not a super in your face bright white. If you want a more sharper, brighter looking white, then what you can do is build up your entire nail with your builder gel and then paint on your white using gel polish. But I really love how the Snow Glaze looks for a French tip. I feel as though it just looks a little bit more elegant than a brighter white. So I'm going to do this in 2 layers, very similar to how we did our nail bed area. So I'm just painting on the first layer, and you've got to be very careful. You've got to get down into those wings and the sides of your extended nail bed, but you have got to be very careful that you don't touch the skin. I did a little bit, so you see that I come in there with my angled nail art brush and cleaned that off. It's a lot easier when you're not working on yourself because you're able to use your thumb and fingers to pull the skin back, so you can get right down into those side walls, which is what I'm trying my best to do here. You can see I'm using one finger to pull that skin back a little bit so we can get right down and create the nice wings for our smile line, because I do love the look of a nice deep smile line. And then again, you can just see here, I'm filling in the rest of that tip area, bringing up the height of it to the same as the nail bed. Don't stress too much if you are messy with your white and it goes over your smile line or goes over your nail bed area, because you can file off any excess. I do like to try and keep it as neat as possible, but I do also like it to overlap my pink ever so slightly so that I know there's no gaps. Then once we pop that in to cure for 60 seconds, that is all of our gel application done. And I have to say, I haven't done a sculpted builder gel French in a very, very long time. So I was quite impressed with how neat the application of this turned out. And I actually have minimal finish filing to do. So that's something to bear in mind. The more you practice and the more nails you do, the less finish filing you have, because the neater you get your application with the gel, the less finish filing you have to do. But one of the amazing things about the Easy Build Up Gel is it is so easy to file. So if you are a beginner and you're struggling with using it, or you're struggling with your application, it's looking a little bit messy, don't stress, because it files off or files down very, very easily. So what I'm doing here is I shaped my free edge with the 100 grit file, and I'm just coming over the surface ever so slightly with the 180 grit file. Like I said, I was fairly happy with my application. There wasn't too much unevenness, so I haven't got too much filing to do. After filing, I do switch to the Kiki London buffer just to smooth out some of the scratches that are left behind from the file. And I like to use both sides of the file. So I usually come in with the 100 grit side first of all, and then I'll switch to the 180. And then we're going to give everything a really, really, really good dust off, because we don't want to end up with any of that dust going in our top coat. So again, I'm wiping off with a little bit of alcohol just to make sure that there is no dust on the surface of that nail. This kind of gives you an idea of what the nail would look like matte as well. But we are going to top coat with a glossy top coat today. I'm going to use the No Wipe rubber top coat because I want to go full on strength with this nail. So we've got the rubber base, we've got our builder gel, which is going to add a lot of strength to the nail. And then the rubber top coat is going to just work with both of those products to reinforce, giving a really strong nail. It's also got a beautiful high shine to it as well. Now, when it comes to applying your rubber top coat, because it's a thicker consistency product, you want to be very careful that you're not applying it too thickly. So I like to kind of just have a small amount on my brush and really brush it in to the nail and then just float it over to get a nice even surface and just look at the shine it has. The rubber top coat and the Easy Build Up Gel do require a 60-second cure. So I've cured all of those for 60 seconds throughout. And our last step is to come in with our cuticle oil. So I'm just going to apply a small drop of this down at that cuticle area, really rub it in. I love this step. I love the smell of all of the Kiki London cuticle oils, but I just love how it leaves you feeling all nourished and your cuticles all replenished. So that is the finished look, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And as always, if you have any questions, pop them below and I'll be happy to help. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.